Hello students, welcome to the world of Intellectuals Hub. Students, today we are going to study our environment. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe the channel for more such informative videos. So let's start the video. We have heard the word environment often being used on the television, in newspaper and by people around us. Our elders tell us that the environment is not what it used to be earlier. Others say that we should work in a healthy environment, and global summit involving the developed and developing countries are regularly held to discuss environmental issues. In this chapter, we shall be studying how various components in the environment interact with each other and how we impact the environment. Now, the ecosystem and its components. All organisms such as plants, animals, microorganisms and human beings as well as the physical surroundings interact with each other and maintain a balance in nature. All the interacting organisms in an area together with the non-living constituents of the environment form an ecosystem. Thus, an ecosystem consists of biotic component comprising of living organism and abiotic components comprising of factors like temperature, rainfall, wind, soil and minerals. For example, if you have a garden, you will find different plants such as grasses, trees, flowering bearing plants like rose, jasmine, sunflowers and animals like frogs, insects and birds. All these living organisms interact with each other and their growth, reproduction and other activities are affected by the abiotic component of ecosystem. So a garden in an ecosystem, other type of ecosystems are forests, ponds and lakes. These are natural ecosystems, while garden and crop fields are human-made, that is artificial ecosystem. We have seen in earlier classes that organisms can be grouped as producer, consumer and decomposers according to the manner in which they obtain their sustenance from the environment. Let us recall what we have learned through the self-sustaining ecosystem created by us above. Which organism can make organic compounds like sugar and starch from inorganic substances using the radiant energy of the sun in the presence of chlorophyll? All green plants and certain bacteria which can produce food by photosynthesis come under this category and are called as producers. Organisms depend on the producers either directly or indirectly for their sustenance. These organisms which consume the food produced either directly from producers or indirectly by feeding other consumers are the consumers. Now the consumers can be classified variously as herbivorous, carnivorous, omnivorous and parasites. Can you give examples for each of these category of consumers? So now imagine the situation where you do not clean the aquarium and some fishes and plants have died. Have you ever thought what happens when an organism dies? The microorganism comprising bacteria and fungi break down the dead remain and waste products of organism. These microorganisms are the decomposers and they break down the complex organic substances into simple organic substances that goes into the soil and are used up once more by the plants. What will happen to the garbage and dead animals and plants in their absence? Will the natural replenishment of the soil takes place even if decomposers are not there? Now the food chain and webs. In activity 13.4 that is shown in this figure, we have formed a series of organisms feeding on one another. This series of organisms taking part at various biotic levels form a food chain. Each step or level of the food chain forms a trophic level. The autotrophs or the producers are at the first trophic level. They fix up the solar energy and make it available for heterotrophs and the consumers. The herbivores are the primary consumers, come at the second. Small carnivores are the secondary consumers at the third, and larger carnivores are terrestrial consumers from the fourth trophic level. That is shown in figure 13.2. We know that the food we eat act as a fuel to provide us energy to do work. Thus, the interaction among various components of the environment involves flow of energy from one component of the system to another. As we have studied, the autotroph capture the energy present in sunlight and convert it into chemical energy. This energy supports all the activities of the living world. From autotrophs, the energy goes to the heterotrophs and decomposers. However, as we saw in the previous chapter on source of energy, where one form of energy is changed into another, some energy is lost to the environment in forms which cannot be used again. The flow of energy between various components of the environment has been extensively studied, and it has been found that the green plant in a terrestrial ecosystem capture about 1% of the energy of sunlight that falls on their leaves and convert it into food energy. When green plants are eaten by primary consumers, a great deal of energy is lost as heat to the environment. Some amount goes into digestion and in doing work, and the rest goes through growth and reproduction. An average of 10% of the food eaten is turned into its own body and made available to the next level of consumers. Therefore, 10% can be taken as the average value for the amount of organic matter that is present at each step and reaches the next level of consumers. Since so little energy is available for the next level of consumer, food chain generally consists of only 3 or 4 steps. The loss of energy at each step is so great that very little usable energy remains after 4 trophic levels. There are generally a greater number of individuals at the lower trophic level of an ecosystem. The greatest number is of the producers. The length and complexity of food chain vary greatly. Each organism is generally eaten up by 2 or more other organisms, which is turned or eaten by several other organisms. So instead of the straight line food chain, the relationship can be shown as a series of branching lines called a food web. This is shown in figure 13.3. From the energy flow diagram, that is figure 13.4, two things become clear. Firstly, the flow of energy is unidirectional. The energy that is captured by the autotrophs does not revert back to the solar input, and the energy which passes to the herbivorous does not come back to autotrophs. As it moves progressively through the various trophic levels, it is no longer available to the previous level. Secondly, the energy available at each trophic level gets diminished progressively due to loss of energy at each level. Now, another interesting aspect of food chain is how unknowingly some harmful chemicals enter our body through the food chain. You have read in class 9th how water gets polluted. One of the reason is the use of several pesticides and other chemicals to protect our crops from diseases and pests. These chemicals are either washed down into the soil or into the water bodies. From the soil, these are absorbed by the plants along with water and mineral, and from the water bodies, they are taken up by aquatic plants. So this is a diagram that shows how sunlight reaches to the producers and then herbivorous and then carnivorous, and at the top level we have top carnivores. This is the figure 13.3. And animals. This is one of the ways in which they enter the food chain. As these chemicals are not degradable, these get accumulated progressively at each trophic level. As human beings occupy the top level in any food chain, the maximum concentration of these chemicals gets accumulated in our body. This phenomena is known as biological magnification. This is the reason why our food grains such as wheat, rice, vegetables and fruits and even meat contain various amounts of pesticide residues. They cannot always be removed by washing or other means. Now, how do our activities affect the environment? We are an integral part of the environment. Changes in the environment affects us, and our activities change the environment around us. We have already studied in class ninth how our activities polluted the environment. In this chapter, we shall be looking at two of the environmental problems in detail, that is depletion of the ozone layer and water disposal. Now the ozone layer and how it is getting depleted. It's very important. Ozone is a molecule formed by three atoms of oxygen, while O2, which we normally refer to as an oxygen, is essentially for all aerobic forms of life. Ozone is a deadly poison. However, at the higher level of the atmosphere, ozone performs an essential function. It shields the surface of the earth from ultraviolet radiation from the sun. This radiation highly damaging to organism. For example, it is known to cause skin cancer in human beings. Ozone at the higher level of atmosphere is the product of UV radiation acting on oxygen molecule. The higher energy UV radiation split apart some molecular energy, oxygen, into free oxygen atoms. These atoms then combine with the molecular oxygen to form ozone as shown in the reaction. That is O2 in presence of ultraviolet radiation split into oxygen plus oxygen, one atom of oxygen and plus another atom of oxygen. When one atom of oxygen added to another two atoms of oxygen, it forms ozone. The amount of ozone in the atmosphere began to drop sharply in the 1980s. This decrease has been linked to synthetic chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons, which are used as refrigerant and in fire extinguishers. In 1987, the United Nations Environmental Programme succeeded in forming an agreement to freeze CFC, that is chlorofluorocarbon production, at 1986 level. It is now mandatory for all the manufacturing companies to make chlorofluorocarbon free refrigerator throughout the world. Now, how to manage the garbage that we produce? In our daily activities, we generate a lot of material that are thrown away. What are some of these waste materials? What happens after we throw them away? Let us perform an activity to find these answers of these questions. We have seen in the chapter on life process that the food we eat is digested by various enzymes in our body. Have you ever wondered why the same enzyme does not break down everything we eat? Enzymes are specific in their action. Specific enzymes are needed for the breakdown of a particular substance. That is why we will not get any energy if we try to eat coal. Because of this, many human-made materials like plastic will not be broken down by the action of bacteria or other saprophytes. These materials will be acted upon by physical process like heat and pressure, but under the ambient condition found in our environment, these persist for a long time. Substances that are broken down by biological processes are said to be biodegradable substances. How many of the substances you buried were biodegradable? Substances that are not broken down in this manner are said to be non-biodegradable substances. These substances may be inert and simply persist in the environment for a long time or may harm the various members of the ecosystem. Visit any town or city and we are sure to find heaps of garbage all over the places. Visit any place of tourist interest and we are sure to find the place littered with empty food wrappers. In the earlier classes, we have talked about this problem of dealing with the garbage that we generate. Let us now look at the problem a bit more deeply. Improvement in our lifestyle have resulted in greater amount of waste material generation. Changes in attitude also have a role to play, with more and more things we use becoming disposable. Changes in packaging have resulted in much of our waste becoming non-biodegradable. What do you think will be the impact of these on our environment? So, This is about the video. I hope you like the video. Next chapter in next video. Thanks for watching.